Je vous demande maintenant d'accueillir avec moi, pour son discours, notre invité d'honneur, Monsieur le Premier ministre, l'honorable Dr Navinchandra Ramgoolam.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I must tell you, when your Secretary General, Mr. Jadu, asked me to be the chief guest this evening, I probably surprised him, but I immediately agreed. Not because, as usual, he was very persuasive, but also I realized that I haven't attended your annual dinner for some time now, and I hasten to add I did not know at the time that I would be the finance minister. We also, I must say, we also happen to have amongst us this evening, and we are very privileged. It is agreed to attend this annual dinner, the Deputy Managing Director of the IMF, Dr. Minzu. It's really a great privilege to have him among us. He's a distinguished and knowledgeable person. Otherwise, he would never become Deputy Managing Director of the IMF, as you probably guess. And I really want to thank him on your behalf as well for accepting this invitation in spite of his very heavy schedule. In fact, I had long discussions with him, with Dr. Zhu, this afternoon. And while I was discussing with him, I thought that maybe this very distinguished audience would like to hear his views on the world economy and Mauritius in particular. So I asked him, I took it myself, but I checked that he could maybe say a few words to you this evening. The added advantage is that I'll have to make a shorter speech. Distinguished guests, after nearly a decade of robust reform that has gradually taken our economy from the phase of dependence on preferential market access to global competitiveness, we are now resolutely embarked upon a transformation agenda underpinned by three objectives: high income, inclusiveness, and sustainability. Let me say a few words about what this transformation agenda is all about. We must, and I think we all agree, we must put our economy firmly on the path to high income, while at the same time we have to be fully conscious that economic progress is not the ultimate objective by itself. There is more to life. The ultimate objective of the economy is to serve the people and ensure the well-being and quality of life of the people we serve. The Bible says, man doesn't live by bread alone. I'm not telling you not to eat later on. But we must ensure that a bigger economy and higher income bring about inclusive growth. Not only inclusive growth, but also social equality, further reduction in poverty, and provide for better quality of life to all our citizens. I wanted to quote, I was just reading it just now, the recent speech by Mrs. Christine Lagarde. And this is what she says, and I quote her. She said, we must make sure that growth is more inclusive and that the rules of the game lead to a level playing field, favoring the many, not just the few, prizing broad participation over narrow patronage. It is essential. This is, the more players you have in the economy, the better the economy will perform. And we all know, I was discussing with Dr. Zhu this afternoon, we have seen letting the markets alone decide doesn't work. The invisible hand doesn't work. You need the firm hand of government, but not so firm that it interferes in everything. There has to be a mix. Government is there to provide the environment. That is what we are supposed to do. And we expect also the private sector to make the wheel of the economy turn, to provide jobs, to create opportunities. That is how the economy, we think, should grow. And some of the specific policy measures that we are taking to ensure that we attain these objectives include, first, the reform of the public sector. I know I'm sure many finance ministers have said this before, but we really have to reform the public sector, which includes rationalization of the activities of the parastatal bodies. We need to make them more responsive to the need of the people we serve. Second, I know we've made a lot of progress, giant leaps in facilitating business, but we need to still create a more friendly business environment, and with particular attention to the small and medium enterprises, because they have the greatest potential to contribute to the economy. And third, a better coordination between the Ministry of Finance and Economic Development and the Bank of Mauritius on macroeconomic policies. In fact, this afternoon, during the working session I had with Dr. Zhu, we spoke of this new modus operandi. In this respect, an MOU will be signed, and I thank again the IMF for helping us through this. An MOU will be signed between the Ministry of Finance and the Bank of Mauritius that should ensure better clarity on monetary policy and more effective coordination on issues such as the management of excess liquidity, which we have, and the setting up of an inflation target. Fourthly, we are reactivating the Financial Services Consultative Council so that they can refocus the debate on the new structural policies to consolidate the sector and make it take it to a new threshold of development. FRCP will have its first meeting, in fact, on Monday next, where all stakeholders will participate actively to chart a new course. I also spoke to Dr. Zhu about my long-term vision for the economy. And one of the subjects we talked about was the new pillar of our economy that I want to develop, the ocean economy. We must intensify our efforts to create new productive activities in our, as you know, very large, vast, exclusive economic zone. Government will encourage prospecting for minerals and hydrocarbons in our EEZ. And we're doing this not just because we want to be daring on it, because it might be good for the economy, but because we are seeing higher and higher probability for making use of whatever we have in the seabed of our maritime territory. This is going to be the new economy. In fact, I was talking also to a minister who works in the office of the Prime Minister of Malaysia. He was very keen on this. In fact, there's going to be a big conference on ocean economy that Malaysia is going to sponsor. It's very important. We know the extent of the sea, of the oceans we have in the world, but we have a very large exclusive economic zone. we need to be able to tap the resources of the new economy. We have already published regulations to enable prospective investors to engage in activities related to deep ocean water applications. And this is a project, I must tell you, which is going to be worth some 4 billion rupees. We have also commissioned a study by the Commonwealth Secretariat. I've asked them, they've agreed, a study on the legal and fiscal framework governing the exploration and exploitation of mineral and other resources in our EEZ. We will also extend our economic horizon by investing in the new generation of clusters that are today shaping the economies of the world. Biotechnology, for example, information and communication technology, the green economy. Also, distinguished guests, we must realize it has been a long-term vision. When we joined the African, at the time it was called the Organization of African Unity, OAU, many thought it was a mistake. Our main market is Europe, why are we concentrating on Africa? That was in the 60s. Today, everyone agrees that Africa is rising. It's a new buzzword, and it's opening up tremendous opportunities for the rest of the world. The world's leading economies, including China and India, are all increasing their involvement in helping shape the future of Africa. We also have adopted an approach which is similar. We're not of the same size of an economy, but it's a similar approach. We are an active member of the African Union. Our relations with other member states have evolved beyond mere economic integration and trade initiatives. We are going much further. Since 2005, we have set the foundations for Mauritius to become a center of excellence for training in the region. With the setting up of the IMF Africa South, the Regional Multidisciplinary Center of Excellence, the Africa Training Institute, which we are formally launching this week, all this goes in that direction. Additionally, we have launched, as you know, the International Arbitration Center, which is unique in the sense that it has a representative of The Hague sitting at that center to ensure we keep the high standards that are needed in such centers. And I know you as businessmen and businesswomen, you also want less red tape and quicker decisions. You may be aware, we have done a lot for business facilitation already, but still we think there's more that can be done. You may be aware that government has set up an investment project fast track committee, which is chaired by the Financial Secretary, precisely with the objective to accelerate the implementation of large investment projects especially, expedite the processing of permits, advise on policy matters, and also to provide institutional coordination. The committee, I must tell you, has already reviewed 20 projects with the relevant ministries and authorities. Alleviating regulatory and administrative constraints has significantly improved investment prospects. Recently, I was traveling to Africa and I had to take South African Airways. And there was a lady sitting next to me whom I did not know. She probably did not know who I was either, which I prefer. But unfortunately, the air hostess announced that we are very glad to have the Prime Minister of Mauritius on board. She immediately guessed that I was the Prime Minister, so she started speaking to me. And then she said to me, I want to congratulate you, sir. She lives in South Africa, works for Barclays in South Africa. She came here for one day and she said to me, I'm amazed. All the permits that I needed, I got within one day. I finished my work, I'm going back to South Africa. And she said she wished every other country in Africa would be the same. We should be proud of this. But we must ensure that these things happen. Significant projects worth 30 billion rupees have already been considered by the committee. And I can tell you there's another 20 billion worth of projects which are now being examined by the same committee. In 2014, that is this year, the projects facilitated by the Fast Track Committee should generate an additional 2.5 billion rupees of FDI, which would create about 1,300 jobs in sectors like manufacturing, construction, tourism, and financial services. We are doing all this because we need to be ahead of the game. We cannot sit on our laurels and think we're doing fine. There's a world of opportunities to seize. This compels us to get out of the mindset that we have and we think we are on a small island with limited resources. This should not be our mindset anymore. And to act on these fronts, we need to have capacity. We need to build up capacity. The outgoing president rightly said, I was listening to your speech. You talked a lot about connectivity. Essential. Our physical infrastructure must be capable of supporting our development ambitions. And to carry through our infrastructure plan over the next few years will require massive investments. We believe around 150 billion rupees. One of these, the airport is already there, but one of these is the LRT. Many of you must know, we have been talking about the LRT for years. Since the 1980s, I think, early 1980s, there have been discussions about the need for an LRT. But no decision was ever taken. In the meantime, costs have gone up. We have now to pay a higher cost for the same thing. Probably it's going to be more modern as well. But after years and years of procrastination, we have launched the LRT project. We've already launched it. This mega project, you know, sometimes I have to smile. Not just because I'm Prime Minister and I've got beautiful ladies looking at me, but I have to smile. Because when I see, you know what they say, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. I see it very often. Many people expect the LRT will be open tomorrow by me. It's a mega project. You can't expect it to become reality overnight. But what I can tell you, it is well on its way to become reality. And mobilizing such a substantial amount of finance in a relatively short time will be unprecedented. It's a challenge. It is bound to put pressure on public finances. That is why we have set up the Mauritius Infrastructure Fund with innovative financing mechanisms that can minimize the burden on public finance, that is on the government, and we hope that the private sector will seize that opportunity and invest to create the infrastructure of the future. And I'm also pleased to announce that following meetings between government and the chamber, and after consultations with the Chinese promoters of the G5 project, we have reviewed the lease agreements and we have decided to open up the special economic zone to Mauritian entrepreneurs as well. And going forward, one of my main concerns will be to reconcile the interests of society with that of economic operators and individuals. One of the great issues, as you know, is not just about equality, but about equal opportunity. By having more stakeholders in the economy, our future success will be tributary to a new emerging set of interlinked factors and forces. It is only through our collective will and wisdom that we will be able to chart a new path of achievements and well-being. I remember, there was the former president of Singapore, Mr. Nathan, came here officially for a state visit in 2011. And in his speech, and I want to go, this is what he said. He said, today both our countries are hailed as economic miracles, perhaps because conventional wisdom had doomed us to failure after independence. We all know what Professor Titmus and me, both of them, economic experts, they have won world prizes. Both of them said that this island is doomed to fail. We have proved them wrong. Prize winners, gold prize winners in economics. Which means, I know, Mr. Zhu, you're economist. I also studied a bit of economics, which means economists don't get it right all the time. You know what former President Harry Truman said of economists? I'm sure you know it, Dr. Zhu, but perhaps not all of them know. After he finished his presidency, he was asked, what is the one thing he would have liked to see? And he said, I would like to see a one-armed economist. And the guy said, but why do you want to see a one-armed economist? He said, because these economists, they always say to me, on the one hand this, on the other hand that. There should be no doubt in the mind of anyone about our determination, my determination to steer the destiny of our country on the highway of modernization, whether it be in terms of governance, or human capital, or physical infrastructure, or on institutional architecture. A clear evidence of this is my determination to amend some key clauses in the Constitution, a Constitution which has remained untouched since our independence, 46 years ago. At every juncture in our history, we have managed to come together as a nation, as one people, because we have a shared destiny. With every generation upholding the great values of past generations. In the path of our forefathers, we must not fear to tread. Today, we know we must, like our parents and grandparents, build that better future for our children and their children. This is the time of momentous change that will lift our country to greater heights. We are today casting the foundation of new Mauritius. We are starting on this grand national project on a much better footing than in 1968, and certainly with much better resources that could have been marshaled at that time. I can already see success because Mauritius as a nation and Mauritians individually know that you have only one option, and that is to succeed. And I can tell you, together, succeed we shall. Thank you.
Je vais maintenant appeler Madame Ludi Ramgoolam, épouse de l'immédiate past president, Monsieur Ganesh Ramgoolam, à vous remettre un souvenir commémoratif de ce dîner annuel de la Chambre de commerce et d'industrie de Maurice. Ce cadeau, vous le verrez, est représentatif du savoir-faire mauricien et nous espérons que vous l'apprécierez.